All right, sound good, guys. So let's go ahead and get started on the development environment setup for Flutter. So you can pretty much follow the same step. I'm using a Mac. I think using Windows shouldn't be anything more difficult. So it should be the same process. All right, so to getting started, I'm going to run this very quickly, okay? So that won't sound very complicated. So let's go to Flutter development. If you don't know the website, just search for Flutter. And then they change the name, sometimes flutter.dev, sometimes flutter.io, but it's going to lead you to the same website that you can see right now. It's already Flutter 2.2. Okay, this is the big release of the version. And they add a lot of support for mobile, not only mobile, but also the web and desktop. All right, so let's talk about the development setup. As you can see, there are a lot of good introduction about this one. This is the kind of app you can even make. You can look at the experience for Flutter. So it's a very nice. It's almost like a native app. You can tell this is done from a third-party framework for Android and mobile. Sorry, for Android and iOS. All right. Anyway, so we're talking about the environment setup. Oh, this is also very cool. You want to check it out because this one shows you can actually run everything as you can see in a web browser. So as you can see here, this is just like a mobile app screen, but everything is running here inside a browser. So it shows you how powerful the Flutter is in terms of supporting web platform. So this is actually a pretty big deal. Now, this is the actual code for Dart that implement this view. So we'll talk more about this one later on. Okay, so getting to the environment setup, let's click on the documentation right here and going through this get started. Okay, now you got different options. Now, obviously, you're going to choose either Windows or Mac OS, so it shouldn't be too much difference. So I'm going to click on the Mac OS. All right, from here, there are a lot of steps. I'm going to simplify this. The most important thing, obviously, is to download this zip file. Okay, this is the Flutter SDK. So let's click on this one. Let's go to download it. And then it's pretty big, 1 GB. So it's going to take 1 or 2 minutes. And so we're going to wait on that one. So for Windows, it should be the same thing. Okay, .zip file. Once you download it, all you need to do is to extract it. You can use a command to do it or simply just click on this one to get it downloaded. All right, so this is the one software you will need. Okay, let's just maybe wait a little bit. All right, so and this documentation here shows you some other command you might need to use. In the beginning, I don't think we need a lot of this. So we're gonna skip most of this one later on. Okay, once we finish this installing, I'm gonna show you the next steps. Right, so let's just wait for another half minute. You guys can also get things started. Okay, so this is the link here. So doc and get started. So you might want to choose either Windows or Mac. Windows the same thing. Windows you also need to download this one, the same SDK. All right. Okay, so it's almost over, and I do have a pretty good internet connection. So this one takes about 1.5 minutes. All right. So once this one is finished, you really want to make sure that you know where this one goes. Okay. So normally let's go to your download folder. So I'm going to click on my folder here. This is my download folder. As you can see, this is the file we just downloaded 1.06 GB. It's a zip file. So you must extract it. Right. So in Windows or Mac, simply you can just extract in the normal way. I will just double click on this one. It's going to extract everything. And this is a big file, so it takes a little bit of time. Um, but you can also do the command line, which I don't think you need to do that right now. So I'll just extract it right here. But the very important thing is that you need to know where this folder is. Okay, so it doesn't matter where you put it. You can put in the download folder. You can move this one to desktop. You can move it to other folder. Everywhere it works. But make sure you know it is in here in this downloads, because later on you want to specify that pass in your Android Studio in the IDE, because the Android Studio need to know where is your Flutter installed. Okay, so I'm going to open this one here, and you will see this is basically everything you need for Flutter. So it includes all the command line tool, it includes some of the libraries, the dependency you might need, the whole framework, everything. Okay, so just so you know that that's a Flutter folder is very important. You obviously you don't want to delete this one because if you delete it, you cannot do the Flutter development anymore. Okay, so that's the very first step. So we're gonna stop here, and I don't think there's anything more you want to try right now. This command line, we're gonna skip it. Okay, later on, if you can run this one, that'll be good. But for now, we can just skip it, just get the whole environment set up as soon as we can. Now, second thing is that we need to have the IDE that we can code and run our application. Now, the official support for this one is Android Studio. So since it's coming from Google, so if you Google Android Studio, so Android Studio is the IDE that supports official Android development. But as I explained, that since Google also built Flutter, so that's why they also choose to use Android Studio as their Flutter environment, which is a pretty good choice because Android Studio is really advanced. I'm going to click on this download button to trigger the download first, accept all this agreement. This is going to download Android Studio. And they ask you to sign in all of this. You can just ignore it right now. This one is another software that's almost 1 GB. So let's actually run this one first. So this one works for both Mac and Windows. So this is kind of a view, pretty advanced IDE. I think the core kernel of this IDE is still based on IntelliJ. So I think it's from the same kind of a company. So that's why it's very advanced. A lot of code completion features, and some other advanced features for you to check performance, all of this, right? And it really supports Flutter really well. So we'll actually see that you can see the very familiar with UI and layout, just like you do the Android development if you ever done that before, right? So that's Android Studio. It's just wait a little bit. Now this is going to be an installer file, and you don't need to extract it. Just run this one. Okay, just click on the run, and it's going to run the installation process, which is going to take another few minutes. All right. So once this one is finished, okay. So I'm going to click on this one. All right. So start. All right, so that's it. So in Mac, it's very easy. Just drag this Android Studio to the application. Then you're done with our installation. For Windows, maybe it's more steps. You click on next. All of those slightly different, but it's pretty straightforward. Just follow the steps. All right. Once I install Android Studio to the application, I can start to run that right away. All right. So pretty fast. One thing I do want to remind you is that for the Android Studio, it does require quite a lot of resources for a computer. So if your computer isn't very fast, or you've been using that for many years, you might struggle a little bit on running the application. So just that you know, it's very expected. Not much big deal. Normally, the first time you run and build your app is going to take some time, but after that, I think things will come back very quickly. All right. So once you're done with Android Studio, start to run it. Okay, I'm gonna go to the Mac Launchpad and then find out the Android Studio application. I'm gonna click on Android Studio here, and that's gonna trigger the application. All right, so I'm gonna open this one here by confirming this is safe to run. All right, so is that started? Okay, sorry, I missed this dialog. Then first time you run this one, they ask you to do the configuration. I'm not gonna import any settings. And there's some other thing you need to choose. Send it or not, I don't want to send it. And some configuration, click on next. Just standard is fine. The theme, I just never find why people use a dark theme, for coding. I really find it hard to read, so I normally use a light theme. But I know more and more developers are choosing dark theme. So anyway, I'm gonna stick with the light theme so that you guys probably can also see that easier. And this one just choose the default, it's fine, just finish it. So this is gonna do a lot of installation. Most of these are downloading the Android SDKs, Android support, as well as some emulator support. I'm gonna talk about the emulator later on. Okay, but this Android Studio is going to take a lot of time to set up. The goal is that once we have an Android Studio set up, we could create our very first Flutter project, and then you can run that project in the emulator. So that's going to conclude this whole setup process. All right. So I think you can see these are more about Android, sorry, the emulators configuration. There's some kind of SDK tools. Some of this may be required by the Android Studio. Some of this may be mostly for Android development. But Flutter, there are also a couple other things we need to set up for the Flutter. So we'll wait for this one first. All right, so this is the very new laptop. So this is relatively faster than most other machines, I would say. If yours is a little slower, that's very expected because this is a very big software. All right, so if you haven't done your configuration, feel free to do the download right now. And as I mentioned, right, so far the two steps are: number one, go to download the Flutter SDK. Number two is to get this Android Studio download and configure. And we're gonna wait for this one a little bit more. And this is downloading this is downloading Android support. All right, so it looks like this is a pretty large file. So we'll see. Probably still downloading. Oh, okay, so it's over, and then trying to undip and extract it, everything. I think we're pretty close now. All right, one more file. This platform file. This is download the Android SDK. As you can see, Android 11. All right, so this one is gonna allow you to do the admin installation.
Sorry, Professor, that password we have to, what was that? It was, we have to create something.
No, I think some of the setup installation requires the admin permission of your computer.
Mhm. Oh, okay.
Yeah, just the admin permission, so they will pop up. Do you use Windows or Mac?
The Windows?
Yeah, they will, with Windows, they will show you, let you to confirm if you want to run this or not.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
see.
So this HAXM, anyone familiar with this one? I think it's some kind of hardware acceleration stuff. For Mac, it's never going to be an issue. For Windows, sometimes you might see some compatibility issues with this one. If you see those, just try to Google it, see the solutions. This one might, if there is issue, it will happens in the emulator part. So we'll show you that one later. By the way, how many of you have already finished the setup of the environment? Okay, very cool. Yeah, start that early. Okay, so for most of the error you ever see, I think you can find solution directly from Google because this thing has been there for quite a while, and it should be pretty a lot of existing solution you can use as reference. All right, so this one is still running. Looks like we're close. Okay, finally finish. Okay, I'm gonna click on finish. All right, so this is Android Studio. Okay, so how many of you, probably some of you already did this one before. A very good IDE. It's very similar to IntelliJ. They're same kernel, I think. Okay, now before you create a new project, so this is by default only for Android, but we're talking about Flutter. So for the Flutter support, you do want to install a plugin for Android Studio so that you can create a Flutter project. So don't start anything yet. So go to this configure and you'll be able to find something called plugins, this one here. Now, if you're already in the Android Studio, you can still find a plugin in one of the menu options. So either way is fine. But if you are already in the starter screen, just click on one more time, configure plugins. And this is going to trigger their marketplace. As you can see, they do a lot of good plugins for the different kind of development. Now, this Flutter definitely is one of their popular plugin. As you can see, it's 9.2 million downloads so far. All right, so I'm going to install this one, accept, and just install. So this one requires Dart support, so it's going to also install that one. And then after that, just restart IDE. This is going to be very fast because it's a very small plugin. All right, so I'm going to rerun the Android Studio. Now I have a Flutter support. So if you got that one set up correctly, you will see there is a new option called create a new Flutter project. That means you got this plugin set up correctly. Okay, so with that, I'm going to create a new Flutter project. All right, so as you can see, the very first thing you have to choose is where is your Flutter SDK path. Remember, I asked you to remember the path of the zip file you just downloaded. In my case, it's under my downloads, and it's under this Flutter. So that is the folder you need to choose for your path. So if you know that, I go back here, I'm going to choose and find out that folder right here. And I go to my downloads. Here is my folder. All I need to do is click on this root folder that contains everything. In my case, Flutter, and click on open. Okay, that's gonna locate where the path is. If you're using Windows, you do exactly the same thing. Find out where that Flutter folder is. Okay, that's why in the first step, I really told you that make sure you know where you put it, where you extracted the file, everything, because you will need it here. Okay, once this one is set up, I'm going to click on next. And yeah, so this is the first time they ask you to install Git and some other thing. Just click on install it. So this step, not everyone will need it. I think if you are using, oh, this one's gonna take that much time. Okay, we'll see. Okay, so if we really need it, because I think what they need is they probably want to install this Git support for some of the updates. But anyway, if you have this kind of automatic pop-ups ask you to install this requirement, just do it. For Windows, I don't think you need this one, but you might need to have, you might need a Git installed first. So we'll see. And yeah, anyway, so for here, let's see the downloads and install the software. But this step is very specific to Mac. All right. Just one more minute. So for those of you who are using Windows to do it, later on, let me know if you see anything like different from what I showed here, especially for this step, because there might be a step that they ask you to install Git. As you can see from here, you can actually choose the project information. Here shows what is the platform you want to support, right? Because if you choose any of these, they might need to use a different kind of Flutter SDK channel, basically different kind of versions to support those. But in the beginning, we're going to focus on Android and iOS. So later on, you can also try the web. But you can see it is going to support Linux, Mac OS, and also Windows. So these were for the desktop application. So this thing is going to get really popular very soon. Also, you can choose to generate the language for the mobile app generated, whether to use for Android, you can do Java. The newer language support is Kotlin. For iOS, you can choose Object-C, very traditional language or the newer Swift. All right, so almost over. Again, this computer is brand new, so that's why you start to see a lot of this new configuration, but some of you may not need it because you already have this installed. All right, so I'm going to click on done.
For
All
the
right.
Android language, we're not putting the Java, putting the Kotlin and Swift.
I'm sorry, say it again.
For the Android language, we're putting the Kotlin and iOS language Swift.
Oh yeah, so this one doesn't matter
Oh,
too much because uh, we are going to use Dart anyway, so they're going to generate these languages.
oh, I see.
Yeah, so that's why, but then they still ask you to choose it because at a certain point, if the Dart cannot deal with certain feature, which is pretty rare in our case, you might need to go to change some of the code. Okay, so this one I will leave it for default as for now. I don't think it's going to matter too much for most of our development. All right, so for the project name, okay, my first Flutter app. All right, again, this is where you save your project folder. You can choose anywhere you want. Okay, make sure you know where they are because later on you might want to manage your project. So this is under my users folder, studio project, and then this folder. Description, you can put it. Organization, this is also important because they, just like Java, they're going to use your domain name as your package name for the prefix. So one suggestion I have is don't name it as com.example. Okay, you can name it anything you want, and you don't have to own the domain. Okay, so for example, in our case, it's edu.cpp. All right, or you just do your own, like my name. Again, as I mentioned, you don't have to own a domain. This is just for you to prefix your code package. But don't use com.example because that will cause some kind of inconvenience later on when you try to publish that. Okay, so just change to something that as long as not com.example. All right, so I'm going to do this one here, and then I'll click on finish. Oh, the project name, they must be lowercase. Okay, so I think they're talking about this one. So I'm going to change this one into lowercase. So my first Flutter project, lowercase underscore. Okay, click on finish. All right, so they are creating your Flutter project. All right, so hopefully this one won't cause too much issues. Overall, they're keeping improving the whole environment, so I expect to see less and less problems, hopefully. All right, so they're importing and indexing everything. Once that is done, you're going to see your project folder right there. All right, so you can see this one successfully created the Flutter project. Now this is a Dart code, okay? This is the template code it generated. You can run this as an app. You don't need to change anything. You can directly run this as a Flutter app. So everything is done. On the left, you can see your project structure. There are a lot of files. Okay, we'll talk about what they are. But the very most important thing is the library folder. There's the min.dart. This is the code you're seeing right now. Okay, and then also you got Android folder, you got iOS folder. These are the folder that contains the file generated from the Dart language. All right, and there's test folder. There are also some other configuration file. This YAML file is very important. It includes the version, dependency, and everything. So we'll talk about what these files are, but most of the time you're going to use this library folder, write the Dart code. For now, if you create this sample project, you don't need to do anything. And let's just run this app. Okay. Now to run this app, there are different options. The easiest option I recommend is to run it on an emulator. So you want to run this as an app, you need a phone support. You could connect your physical phone to the computer to run it there, but for development purpose, normally we don't need to do that. It's a lot of inconvenience when you connect the device and always run, look at the screen. You could just use the software simulated emulator phone to run your app. But in the beginning, you had to create emulator. You don't have emulator yet. Now you can create emulator with Android, or you can also create emulator with iOS, with iPhone. So, but then if you only have Windows, you can only do the Android. In our case, I'm going to show you just the Android emulator because it's a very easy, convenient way to create from Android Studio. So what you want to do is go up here, find out this button here called AVD Manager. So I think it's a virtual device manager. So you click on this one. As you can see right now, this new Android Studio already have this one installed for you. That has this Pixel 3a. This is one of the phone model Google produced. And then this is the Android version. Everything is default. That's good. You can run this one right now. Or if you want to ever add a new virtual device, you can choose a different model. I want to choose a newer phone, Pixel 4. I want to use a bigger screen. And you can all make the choices. You can also get a virtual device for a watch, get a virtual device for a tablet, for different kind of brands. Mostly it's Google's brand. You can also generate one for TV. Okay, so you can install any of those if you want. Since I already have one here, I'm going to run this thing called a action button here, launch this virtual device. I'm going to click on this one. All right, and just ignore that little error. It's going to starting, as you can see right here, it says starting the virtual device. All right, so just click on this once. Okay, every time we click on this one, it's going to they have a little bug to show you that little error there. So, but just ignore it. Okay, so it's gonna, as you can see, trigger this emulator device here. And when you see this one, let's just wait. Now, this is another step that takes some time, depending on how good your computer is. Again, everything I'm showing right now, I think is relatively faster than most of computers because this Mac computer was bought probably end of last year. So it's still kind of a new one. But if your computer already being used for 3 years or more, you might need more time to get things started. Okay. All right, so it looks like we're good now. As you can see, the emulator is up. This is the full functional Android phone emulator. As you can see, you can go to the browser. You can do anything you want, just like a regular phone. Okay, except you don't need to connect an account right now. You can just go to the browser right now. All right. Oh, do I need to connect the Wi-Fi? Wait, let me try that. Okay, so yeah, surprisingly, the school doesn't even support the URL without www, so that's kind of a shot. But anyway, so this is a full like app that you can run. Sorry, full like phone emulator you can run that does everything just like your regular phone. Okay, I see you can probably even play games here. Once this one is up, leave this window here. And then you can close this window. You don't need this one anymore. I can close this one. So make sure your emulator is still here. Okay, so this phone here. All right, so then the only thing left right now is try to run your app with this emulator. Hopefully everything will be up and running. Now, one suggestion I do have about this view is that because if you go back to Android Studio, your app, your phone is gone, right? So what you could do is that you can, we can, first of all, this window, we don't need it, just close it. I normally just do this. I'm gonna move this window a little bit smaller so that I can drag this emulator to the right. Okay, so that way I can just see both, and then you can just change your code. You can see the change right here. Okay, so let's try it. So now I'm gonna click on this start button here to run it. By default, as you can see, once you have an emulator, this tab here shows you, okay, I have recognized a Android mobile phone, which is the Google phone, this kind of CPU. So you can then run your app. So I'm gonna click on this button to run it. All right, so looks like they started on some other tools. I don't know what this is. but I assume that this one mostly happens at the very first time. So let's wait a little bit. It's going to turn into this dialog here. It's a run dialog terminal, very important. Now, this is also the step that's going to take some time, okay? What they're doing right now is to build their whole project, generate the Android build, and then run it on this device. Again, mine probably is going to be pretty fast. In your case, it might take 1 or 2 or 3 minutes. That is not uncommon. Just be patient. As long as it's still running, as long as you're still hearing your laptop, your computer fine still running, that's a good sign. But the very first time is going to take some time, but the second time afterwards, it will be a lot faster. Okay, so we'll see how long it's going to take in my case. And you can browse the code briefly. They have really good comments here in the code, in the sample code. It really talks a lot of good things. What this means, how to make things work, all of this. Everything is written in Dart. For Flutter, even for UI, it's also implemented in Dart. You don't need to use other UI specifications. All right, so now as you can see, we're running, but things are failing. All right, so if anytime you see the red, basically something is failed. You can see the build failed. All right, so this is going to happen, I mean, quite a lot in the beginning, I would say. Every time the error might be different. So my recommendation, anytime you see this one, don't be panicked, okay? Just look at the error message to see exactly what's going on. All right, so let's see here, a warning, the license for the package Android SDK not accepted, and the build failed with the exception, all of this. And then this one failed, all of this one here, and you know, most of the reason is because they failed to install the following Android SDK package, as some licenses have not been accepted. Okay, so this is one of the common issues you will see as you run this at the first time. Now let me explain the reason. The reason is that you're running this app in the Android device. So that means you write the Flutter app, you build it into an Android version of the app. So everything, once they start to run it here, is going to follow all the Android stuff. So you can actually see the Android code right here. This is the Android project folder. For those of you who are familiar with Android, you can see everything here is generated. So it follows all the Android SDK and everything, but because this is the newly installed Android SDK, for some reason, we have not accept some of the licenses. Basically, whenever you install the software, they ask you to accept or not some of the agreements, the license. And we didn't see those ones because we never run any application Android stream before. This is our very first time. That's why it doesn't allow you to run it. Okay, so this is the very common issue you will see in the very beginning if you follow the step I'm showing you. So to solve this problem, okay, you will need to run some command line to do it. So let's actually see their recommendation. So they said that to build this project, accept license agreement, install the missing component using Android Studio SDK Manager, or you can transfer some of those. Okay, so we're gonna try different things. I will try to do it without using the command line because you need to set up the path and everything. So let's try to go to this Android Studio SDK Manager, which is right here, SDK Manager. Let's go there. Let's see if there anything we can do about it. So like if you click on this, there is this Android version right here you installed, and then there's Android SDK tools, some of those, and let's actually try to install something and see if that's gonna get us any results here. Okay, so what we can try in this case is that they pre-installed one version. Now, could we try to install another version and see if that's going to, allow us to accept the license somewhere, right? So the reason is that, as you can see, they said this one here. If you go up, so they all mentioned the Android SDK build tools 29. So I assume that this one might come from this 29 version, this level. So Android 10. So I don't know. So let's try this. But what I want to do is I pick a version. You can also try the same one and try to click on OK to install it. Hopefully it's going to trigger that screen for us to install and accept those licenses. So I'm going to click on OK and then click on OK right here. So this is the part I'm talking about. As you can see, license agreement. Okay. If you do this one here, I would just accept it and then click on next. This is going to install everything. All right. So this is the one way to fix it. All right. So I'm going to see if this one works. There's another one in the command line. You can actually accept all of those licenses. So I'll also show you a different way later on, but let's see if this one works. So the versions here is that Android has all different versions from early days to now Android 11. So there are a lot of those. So I'm going to click on finish. Okay, with that, let me run this one more time, see if that's going to fix the issue. So I'm going to run this button here one more time. All right, so now this time it said accepted. I think it's going to pass. So you want to watch the number. If it's 29, that's why I installed at 29. So depending on what kind of error you see, then you might need different kind of installations. I'm not sure you can hear my laptop. The fan in my laptop runs really fast right now. Take a lot of resources to build. All right, so now everything's done. Generate APK file, and on the right hand side you can see it started running the app. All right, so here is the very first app. Okay, so it has a very simple screen here. Show the text, there's the number, and you can click on this little button here. Every time you click on that, it's going to increase the number. That's your very first Flutter app. And actually, if you go to your phone, you go to the app here, you can see your app right here. So it's one of the app already being installed. You click on this one, you can bring it back and then increase this number. Okay, so if you can get this point, that means you have successfully set up all the Flutter development environment, and you are good to go for more development right now. Okay, so just keep in mind about this little issue here on the license. Okay, now sometimes this way I'm showing you is in my opinion is the easiest way without touching the terminal, the command line for all the Android and Flutter stuff. But sometimes you might need to do that, so you will need to Google those commands, and there is something called a Flutter doctor dash dash accept lessons or something like that. So there might be things you need to do with that, but normally those answers you can find online in Google. But if you see those license issue, use this one to pick a version to install. That, in my opinion, is probably the easiest way to pass this issue. Again, this one mostly happens the first time you run Android Studio and emulator. All right. So that's all I have for the configuration for Mac. For Windows, I think it should be almost the same thing. All right. So are there any questions so far, or are you guys having any different issues as you go through this process? Yeah, Karina, back to the question. So are you talking about this one here, system image?
Yeah, I picked the Pixel 4 and then for it to create a virtual device, and then it popped up with to select an image. So I just picked R.
Yes, so this is ask you to select which Android version you use. As I explained, the Android, so you're using iPhone, right?
I think so.
I'm sorry, I'm asking, do you have iPhone or you have Android phone?
Oh, I have an iPhone.
Yeah, that's why. So for iPhone, the same thing. You know, the iPhone every once in a while you do the updates. Right now it's iOS 13, right? It's 12.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing for Android. They have Android 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this image is asking you to choose which Android version you want to use. In
Oh,
this
okay.
case, I think you choose the Pixel 4. That's why you only have this option. But I think if you go with other devices, you might be able to choose the lower versions as well, but you don't need to do that. I just want to show you, if you go here, as you can see, this device, you can actually choose different versions of Android.
Yeah.
These are
Okay.
older versions. These are maybe 3, 5, 4 years old. And this is obviously the latest version.
Okay.
Yeah. The system image means operating system, which version you want to use.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
All right. So let me actually stop recording first.